sky above planet Saravek 7 cracked open like glass. One moment the twin moons glowed calmly. The next, explosions tore through the atmosphere, and dark ships screamed through the clouds. The peaceful alien city of Eltharine, built with harmony and colors, turned into a war zone. Lena stood frozen in the middle of the plaza. Her skin shimmered with fear, glowing pale silver. All around her, people ran, screamed, and vanished in fire. But she couldn't move. She wasn't just scared. She was confused, because the attackers weren't monsters from old myths. They were humans. She had heard about Earthlings before. Cold, emotionless creatures. No shared mind links, no empathy skin. They wore clothes over their feelings and spoke with words, not colors. Some called them monsters in skin suits. But now, they were here, real, angry, dangerous. Her mother's last words echoed in her ears. If the humans ever return, run. They don't feel like us, they burn. Suddenly a flash. Then blackness. Lena woke up in a ruined room, dust on her face. Her long fingers brushed her skin. Her glowing lavender skin. That meant she was afraid, but no longer terrified. The fear was fading. She sat up. The ceiling was broken. Alien stars peeked through. Fires danced outside the shattered window. Then, she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Metallic. A shape stepped into view, tall, armored, a helmet with a glowing blue visor. It looked like one of the war machines she'd only seen in history scrolls, but it wasn't a machine. It was a human. The soldier aimed his weapon, then stopped. Their eyes met through the helmet visor. Her skin color changed instantly, bright orange, the shade of raw panic. But something strange happened. The soldier lowered his weapon. "Wait, you're not one of them," he said quietly. Lina blinked. She didn't understand his words. Her species used color-shifted skin to speak, not vocal sounds. But she understood the tone. The human looked around, then walked slowly toward her. She backed away until her back hit the broken wall. Then he did the unthinkable. He touched her. Just gently. His glove brushed her shoulder. Her skin exploded into bright red, the color of shock and shame. She gasped. That color was private. No one touched a girl like her. The human stepped back, realizing something happened. "Sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to. I thought you were hurt." Lina's emotions spun in chaos. The red glow shimmered into violet. Confusion. Why didn't he shoot her? Why did he seem concerned? This wasn't what she'd been taught. Humans were dangerous, cruel. They destroyed cities, but this one looked sad. "My name's Dorian," he said slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand the words, but the tone made her skin shift again, to a soft blue. Trust. Meanwhile, far above in orbit, a secret was being kept from both sides. This war wasn't supposed to happen. Dorian's team had been sent to rescue a crashed human scientist, but someone had sabotaged the mission and made the humans appear as invaders. And Lina, she wasn't just a girl from the city. She was the last emotion keeper of her people, an ancient bloodline that allowed her to connect emotionally with other species through skin color. And now, she had just bonded, even briefly, with a human soldier, something that had never happened before. As the night deepened, Lina and Dorian sat quietly in the ruined room. Neither fully trusted the other, but something strange was growing in the silence. A connection. Her skin stayed soft blue. His hand stayed unarmed. And somewhere deep inside her, she wondered what would happen if he touched her again. Would her skin betray feelings she didn't understand? The room was quiet, except for the sound of distant fire crackling and a soft wind whispering through the broken wall. Lina sat still, her knees drawn close to her chest. Her glowing skin now shifted to pale blue, the color of silence, of watching, of waiting. Across from her, the human, Dorian, took off his helmet. His face was tired, dirty, and bruised. But his eyes, they weren't cruel. They were full of questions. He looked at Lina carefully, like she was a puzzle he had to solve. And in a way, she was. Her skin color changed with her emotions. To him, that was strange. To her, his still face, his unreadable emotions, was even stranger. She had never felt so exposed. No words had been shared that made full sense. But the earlier touch, the feeling of his gloved hand on her shoulder, it had shaken her deeply. Where she came from, skin contact meant more than words. To be touched was intimate. To be touched by an outsider, forbidden. Her cheeks glowed, deep red again at the memory. Dorian didn't understand what he had done, but she did. She had let a human touch her, and her skin had shown her feelings. What if others saw? What if the elders found out? Her people didn't just fear humans, they had laws against bonding with them. Old sacred laws. She looked at Dorian again. He had opened a small metal box and was eating something dry and flat. He broke a piece and slowly held it toward her. Her eyes widened. Was it a test, a trick? But something in her heart, something she didn't understand, told her he was trying to be kind. She reached out carefully. Her fingers brushed his as she took the food. And again, red. He saw it. His eyes narrowed, curious. What does that color mean? He asked softly. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her language was color, not sound. But her eyes dropped in embarrassment, and Dorian seemed to understand. Sorry, again. Lina looked away. Her skin cooled to purple. Uncertainty. This was dangerous. She should have run the moment she woke up. But she didn't. Outside in the destroyed streets of Eltharine, other human soldiers moved in squads. Their mission was confusing. Half of them thought they were here to fight. Others believed it was a mistake. Dorian's unit had been scattered in the chaos. Some soldiers had orders to capture aliens. But Dorian? He just wanted answers. Inside the ruined building, the air shifted. A faint sound echoed from below. Lina suddenly stood up, alarmed. Her skin turned orange-yellow, warning. She moved quickly to the far wall and pointed downward. Her fingers glowed faint blue and green in a pattern. To Dorian, it looked like art, but it was language, a message in light and motion. He stood too. His soldier instincts woke up fast. Someone's coming? He asked. She nodded. Then her skin changed, gray with red edges, fear and danger. Dorian raised his weapon but didn't aim it at her. She reached out, gently pushed it down, then shook her head. No noise. Her glow seemed to say. They moved together down the hallway, their steps quiet, breathing shallow. Lina moved like a shadow, guiding him through hidden paths in the building, paths only native Saravexians knew. Behind them, a human patrol entered the area. But they were not like Dorian. They had orders to take prisoners, or kill, in the lower tunnels of the building. Dorian and Lina reached a small chamber with glowing walls, natural crystal pulsing with energy. Lina touched one with her palm. Her skin turned green and white. Safety and memory. A hidden panel opened, a secret door. She looked back at him. Her eyes told him everything. You're not supposed to be here, but I'm still showing you. Dorian followed her in. Inside was a soft, glowing dome. Symbols lit the walls. A recording began to play. Images of her people living peacefully, long before war. And then, images of humans arriving, not as enemies, as guests. And then, betrayal. One human ambassador had betrayed the peace, burned their forests, kidnapped a noble. That's how the old laws were written. That's why touch was forbidden. That's why skin turned red. But Lina's eyes didn't look like hate. They looked like confusion, pain, a crack in everything she believed. And as the recording ended, she reached out and touched his hand again. This time her skin didn't turn red, it turned soft pink and warm orange. Curiosity, possibility, a new emotion. She didn't pull away, and neither did he. But deep in the shadows above, one of the other human soldiers spotted a faint heat trail, leading straight to the hidden door. He tapped his comm. Found something. Might be one of ours, or one of theirs. Back underground, Lina's skin suddenly shifted to sharp blue spikes. She sensed it too. They were no longer alone. The underground chamber trembled. Lina turned her glowing eyes toward the ceiling. Her skin flared blue, then flickered to orange-red. A warning. Dorian didn't need to understand her skin language to know what it meant. Someone had found them. He raised his rifle, checking the charge. It wasn't fully loaded, and he didn't know how many enemies were above, but he stepped in front of her anyway. She looked at his back, surprised. Why was he shielding her? She wasn't his ally. She wasn't even his kind, and yet he stood like a wall, ready to fight whoever came. Dorian glanced over his shoulder. If something happens to me, run. Don't look back. Lina's skin flashed bright red, a mix of shock and deep refusal. She stepped forward and grabbed his arm. He paused. Then something incredible happened. Her skin, usually shifting with fear and stress, turned bright pink. It wasn't a usual color in her culture. Pink was rare. It meant trust, hope, and something deeper, something they didn't have a word for. He didn't understand the color's meaning, but his heart felt it. Above them, the squad of human soldiers moved fast. They were from a different unit, and their orders were clear. Clear the ruins, check for alien survivors, no exceptions. Thermal trace ends here, one soldier said. Kick it open, another replied. A steel boot smashed the door, but inside the chamber, Lina moved quickly. She touched the crystal panel again, and a secondary door opened behind the glowing wall. Without a word, she pulled Dorian through it. They slipped into a tunnel just before the chamber burst open behind them. Gunfire rang out, dust flew, but they were gone. The tunnel led them into the belly of the old city. Beneath the gardens, the temples, the sleeping ruins of a civilization that once lived in light and harmony. Lina moved with ease. Dorian followed, sweating, panting, confused, but never letting her out of his sight. She had saved him too. After what felt like an hour, they reached a resting chamber with a soft moss floor. Crystals above gave a gentle light, and the silence finally returned. Dorian sat down with a grunt. I don't know what's happening anymore, he whispered. I was supposed to find a scientist, not fall into an ancient city with a girl whose skin talks more than her lips. Lina watched him. Her head tilted slightly. She reached into a pouch tied around her waist and pulled out a small glowing orb. She held it to her throat. Then she tried. You, safe. Dorian blinked. What? She tapped the orb again. You, safe, with me. The translator orb wasn't perfect, but the message hit him hard. He smiled for the first time since landing on the planet. So, I'm safe, huh? She nodded. Her skin shimmered blue-gold. A calm mix of peace and joy. He touched his chest. Dorian, she pointed at herself. Lina. He repeated it softly. Lina. The name felt strange on his tongue, but right in his heart. They stayed in that chamber a while. Dorian cleaned his wounds. Lina used a strange glowing plant to stop his bleeding. Her fingers brushed against his bare arm. Her skin turned pink again. He noticed. That color. I've only seen it twice now. When I protect you, and when you touched me. Lina blinked, unsure of how to explain. But deep inside, something warm bloomed. Something her people had feared for generations. Bonding with a human, and yet it didn't feel wrong. It felt natural, but far away someone was watching. Through a hidden drone, A man in black armor studied the two on a flickering screen. So, he found the girl. The voice crackled through the dark ship. Should we extract him? Asked another officer. No, the man replied. Let's see how far this connection goes. It may prove useful. You mean, the bonding? Legend? Exactly. If the girl bonds with a human, it could awaken the gift her kind locked away centuries ago. Back in the mossy chamber, Dorian lay on his back, looking at the strange crystal lights above. Lena sat close, knees drawn up. Her skin glowed a soft sunset orange. Not afraid, not ashamed, just open. She turned her head slowly toward him and spoke in soft, translated words. You touched me, twice, and I did not run. Dorian nodded. I noticed. She leaned closer. I don't want to run anymore. He swallowed. He had no idea what came next. But he knew this. This mission had become something far more personal, and her skin, it was saying things he didn't have words for. The glow from the moss chamber faded as Dorian and Lina continued deeper underground. The path was narrow now. Twisting tunnels, roots growing along the walls, and soft lights dancing above them, like stars. It felt like they were walking through a dream, or maybe a forgotten memory. Dorian walked close behind her. She barely made a sound, moving with the grace of someone who belonged to this place. But even this deep, Lina's skin was restless. She kept glowing light green. Unease. Something wrong? Dorian asked, even though he knew she wouldn't fully understand. She glanced back at him, her glow turning gray-blue, a color he'd seen before, fear of the unknown. They continued walking. Above ground, the human soldiers were growing impatient. Commander Ryle, a scarred officer from Earth's orbital fleet, barked orders at his men. No more delays. Find the girl. If Dorian's protecting her, then he's compromised. I want both of them brought in, now. A soldier raised his hand. What if she resists? Ryle's voice was cold. Then shoot her legs. Just make sure she's alive. Meanwhile, down in the ruins, Dorian and Lina reached a wide underground hall. The ceiling had carvings of flowing stars, strange animals, and dancing figures. Some looked like her people, others like humans. You knew us? Dorian whispered, staring at the wall. Long before we ever came. Lina nodded. She walked toward a circular mark on the ground, symbols glowing in a spiral pattern. Her skin turned silver blue, meaning wonder and ancient memory. She placed her hand in the center of the pattern. A low hum filled the air. Suddenly, holographic lights swirled around them, images of two races once united. Dorian watched, breathless. Lina looked at him, her voice quiet through the translator orb. We were one, long ago, before the betrayal. Dorian clenched his jaw. And now we fight. Because of fear and lies. She nodded. Her skin turned pale yellow, a rare emotion. Forgiveness. But their moment didn't last. Without warning, a loud clang echoed from behind. Dorian spun around, gun raised. Soldiers burst through the tunnel, weapons drawn. Hands up! Don't move! Lina screamed. She stumbled back, skin glowing blinding white, a color Dorian had never seen before. It was the color of pure terror, not fear, not panic. Something deeper. One of the soldiers lunged forward and grabbed her arm. The instant his hand touched her, a flash of energy surged through her skin. Boom! He flew back like he'd been hit by a shockwave. Another soldier shouted, She's reactive. She's one of the bonded class. They raised their weapons. Dorian didn't think. He threw himself between Lina and the soldiers. Back off! He roared. She's not your enemy. Commander Ryle stepped into the chamber, his cold eyes narrowing. Stand down, Dorian, you've been compromised. She saved my life. We were sent to rescue, not destroy. She's a Class 5 empath. Do you know what that means? Her skin doesn't just reflect emotions, it spreads them. If she bonds, she can influence entire groups. That's a weapon. Lina's eyes widened. She didn't understand all their words, but she understood enough. They were calling her dangerous. A weapon. Her skin turned pale violet gray, grief and shame. Dorian kept his weapon raised. She's not a weapon. She's scared. And she's more honest than any of us. You want to? Cage her because her skin shows the truth. Ryle signaled to his men. Take them both. The soldiers advanced. Lina grabbed Dorian's arm tightly. Her skin surged back to white, even brighter than before. Suddenly, a deep tremor shook the ground. The chamber began to crack. The old stone couldn't handle the energy from her skin anymore. Lina, what are you doing? Dorian asked, panic in his voice. She didn't answer, she just looked at him. Her skin flickering between white, red, and finally, a soft golden pink. Then she whispered, I trust you. A final pulse of emotion burst from her body. A shockwave blasted through the hall, knocking everyone off their feet. When the dust settled, Dorian and Lina were gone, vanished through a hidden escape tunnel that only her glowing hand could open. Ryle stood slowly, coughing. Find them, he growled. Wherever they go, that girl's power will grow. If she bonds fully with the human, he paused. She might awaken the old connection, and we can't let that happen. Far beneath the city in a narrow glowing cave, Lina and Dorian collapsed against the wall. She was shaking. Her skin was still pale, but she was alive. He held her close, and for the first time, she didn't flinch from the human touch. Deep inside, the glowing cave, the silence was almost heavy. Dorian leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. His uniform was torn, his arm was burned, and his chest ached from the blast. But none of that mattered right now. Lina was trembling beside him. Her hands were cold. Her skin still glowed white, though it was slowly softening to gray-blue. The panic was fading. Dorian looked at her with concern. You okay? She nodded slowly, but her eyes were distant. You protect me, she said softly through the translator orb. He chuckled lightly, even though his body ached. Of course. I couldn't let them hurt you. Lina turned her, face toward him. Her skin shimmered, slowly shifting from fear to light pink, then deeper pink, glowing brighter than before. Dorian's smile faded. He had seen that color before. Once, when she touched his hand. Again, when he risked his life for her. But now it was stronger, brighter, more intense. His chest tightened. Lina, what does that color mean? He asked carefully. She paused. Her glowing fingers trembled as she reached up and touched her own chest. In my people, this color is only shown once. Dorian blinked. Once. When we feel something that has no hiding, no fear, no doubt. She looked into his eyes. The glow around her spread, like soft firelight. It means love. Dorian's heart skipped. For a moment the air felt too thin. He looked away quickly, rubbing the back of his neck. Lina, I didn't mean to lead you into that. She tilted her head. Her pink glow faded slightly. Lead? I didn't mean to make you feel something that might not be returned. Lina's smile faded. Her skin began to shift, faint purple, soft orange, then slowly into gray. Sadness. Doubt. You do not love me? Her voice was calm, but shaky. Dorian looked at her again. She was beautiful in a way that was hard to describe, not just because of her alien features, but because her emotions lived on her skin. She was real, honest, too honest for a soldier like him. Lina, it's not that I don't care. I do, He sighed. I don't know what's going to happen next. We're being hunted. My people want to lock you away. Yours probably think I'm the enemy. We're from two different worlds. Lina listened silently. Her skin grew dull gray, like a dying ember. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, My skin tells you truth, but your face hides it. Always. Dorian's eyes softened. She wasn't accusing him. She was just hurt, because her emotions were always visible, and his were locked away behind a human face. "I'm not used to people seeing my feelings," he said finally. "I am not used to people hiding them." She looked away. Hours passed. They rested in silence. The cave lights pulsed gently above them. Lina curled up in a corner, her skin flickering in low mixed colors, like a storm of emotions she couldn't control. Dorian sat alone, staring at his communicator. It was blinking, a faint signal. The outside world still searched for him. "You could call for help now," his mind whispered. "They'd take you out safe. Mission over." But he looked back at Lina and knew he couldn't do it. Not after everything. Later, as they both sat near the crystal spring at the heart of the cave, Lina finally spoke. "When I was small," she said, "my mother told me a story of a time long ago when a human and a skin speaker bonded, and their bond changed both worlds." Dorian listened closely. "She said their skin lit up the stars, that the love between them made the colors of our skies." "What happened to them?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "They were hunted, like us. But they didn't run forever." "What did they do?" Lina's skin began to glow again, soft pink but calmer this time. "They stopped running. They stood in front of both sides and showed the truth. Together." Dorian looked at her. She didn't say it aloud, but the message was clear. "Are you saying we stop running?" he asked. She nodded. "If we run, they will always fear. But if they see what I feel, maybe the fear will break." He swallowed. "You're asking me to risk everything?" She leaned forward, touched his hand again. "I already did." Her skin warmed once more, gentle rose. Dorian didn't pull away this time. He held her hand longer. The decision had been made inside him, even before he realized. He wasn't going to abandon her, even if the galaxy turned against them both. Far above, satellites picked up the faint energy of her emotion bursts. And far away, in a dark war room, someone whispered, "The skin bond is growing stronger, and faster than expected. If this continues, they'll awaken the connection." A general narrowed his eyes. "Then we must move first. Kill the human, or break the bond before it completes." Dorian had never seen the stars from this angle. The escape tunnel led to the mountain cliffs above the ruined city. Below them, Eltharine still smoldered, fires from the human assault still burning, but dying slowly. Lina stood beside him, wind blowing her long, glowing hair. Her skin shimmered gently in light pink and blue, trust, calm, and something tender. For the first time, they stood under the open sky without fear, but it wouldn't last. Not for long. Dorian tapped his wrist. Device. He had intercepted a transmission earlier but hadn't told Lina yet. Now he couldn't hide it anymore. "They gave the kill order," he said quietly. "For me." Lina's skin froze mid-glow, then shifted to deep gray, then blood red. Shock, followed by rage. "Why?" she asked, her voice sharp through the translator orb. "Because I refuse to hand you over. They think I'm compromised. A threat." She stepped closer. "But you protected me. You told truth. It doesn't matter. Truth doesn't survive politics." He looked into her eyes. "I won't let them take you, even if it means they take me." Her skin turned golden white, a rare emotion, known only to the oldest of her kind, devotion. "Then, we don't hide," she whispered. "We stand, together." But even as they planned their next move, the assassins were already near. A human stealth team had landed on the ridge. 4 elite soldiers. Silenced, weapons, direct orders. Kill Dorian, retrieve the girl alive. If she resists, put her down. Their visors locked onto heat signatures. Target confirmed. Lina turned toward the forest path ahead, but stopped. Her skin flared orange. Danger was close. She spun around just as a flash of light cut through the air. A gunshot. Dorian shouted, "Too late." The shot was aimed straight at his chest, but it didn't hit him. Lina had moved first. She threw herself in front of him without hesitation. The plasma bolt hit her in the side. She gasped. Her body dropped. Dorian caught her as she fell. Lina. Her skin flickered rapidly, white, red, gray, before settling into a weak violet. Pain. He dropped to his knees, cradling her. His voice was shaking. "You didn't have to do that. Why did you?" She reached up and touched his cheek. Her hand was cold, trembling. "Because I love you." Her skin, despite the wound, glowed bright pink and gold. And then, something strange happened. The color didn't stay just on her. It spread, gently, onto his arms where she touched him. Color flowing onto human skin. Dorian's eyes widened. She was bonding. Not just emotionally, spiritually, biologically. The old legends were true. Above, the soldiers moved in, preparing for the final shot. But suddenly, boom! A wave of energy burst from Lina's body, brighter than before. It knocked all 4 soldiers off their feet, disabling their weapons. Lina's glow exploded into the air, forming shapes, lights, waves of color that danced like fire in the sky. Dorian held her tightly. Her voice was soft. "I gave you part of me. Now, they can't separate us." He looked down at her wound. "You're bleeding. We have to stop." She shook her head. "No time, they'll return." Then she whispered something else. "But now, you glow." He looked at his own hands and gasped. His skin, just faintly, was starting to shimmer with color. Not as bright as hers, but enough to be seen. He had absorbed part of her bond. The connection was real, irreversible. The enemy retreated, confused by the surge of emotion energy. Their systems were fried, their comms blocked. They sent a warning back to HQ. Target survived. Unknown energy burst. Possibly hybrid event. Back at Amori, Command, the general slammed his fist on the console. "They bonded? Impossible." "Sir," a tech stammered. "If the human carries her emotion skin signature, then he's no longer fully human. He's something else now," the general growled. "Then both must be eliminated, before they change everything." Back at the cliffs, Dorian carried Lina in his arms. She was weak, but alive. Her glow was dim, but warm. "You should have let me take the hit," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "If you die, bond ends. I can't let that happen." He looked out toward the horizon. They couldn't run forever, but they didn't have to anymore. Not now. They would stand together and show the world that love, true, unfiltered emotion, wasn't a weakness. It was the most powerful weapon of all. Dorian stood under the pale light of Saravex 7's twin moons, but he no longer looked fully human. Faint trails of color shimmered across his arms and neck. Not from war paint or wounds, but from her. From Lina. He now glowed like her people. Not just a reflection, but a shared bond. A living connection. Lina lay resting in a hidden healing pool below the cliffs. Her wound had stopped bleeding, but her energy was still weak. Her skin glowed soft amber, the color of quiet strength and fragile hope. Dorian paced beside her, watching the horizon. He knew what was coming. The transmission he intercepted last night made it clear. Bond confirmed. Human asset corrupted. Eliminate both. Orders approved by High Command. They weren't just being hunted now. They were targets of the entire Earth military. And it was worse than that. The local Saravex tribes had also seen the glow spreading to a human and believed it was a curse. A violation of sacred law. One of their own had passed emotion skin to a human. That had not happened in over 700 years, and back then, It ended in war. Now, it was happening again. Lina stirred in the water, her eyes blinking open. Her skin flared, briefly blue, sensing his stress. "You're worried," she said softly. Dorian sat beside her, his voice low. "They're coming. Not just my people. Yours too." She nodded slowly. "I felt it. Through the bond." He looked down at his own hand, still glowing faint pink, just like hers. "It doesn't fade," he said quietly. "It won't," she replied. "It's a soul mark now." "What does that mean?" "It means, even if we're apart, a piece of me stays with you. Always." Dorian was quiet. Then, "They want to kill us." Lina met his gaze. "Then, we don't run. You're still weak. I'm strong enough, if I'm with you." By morning, the cliffside was no longer silent. Dozens of dropships descended from orbit. Soldiers surrounded the mountain. From the other side, Saravek's warriors, draped in glowing sashes and face paint, approached with spears and light blades. 2 armies, 2 enemies, 1 couple. Dorian stood tall, holding Lina's hand as they stepped into the open. The air shifted. Gasps echoed from both sides. The soldiers saw the color glowing across his body and hesitated. The Saravek's elders saw their sacred colors on a human and stepped back in fear. Lina raised her voice, her translator orb flashing with every word. "We didn't break your laws. We proved your legends." She lifted their joined hands. "The bond you feared is real, and it is beautiful. You fear him," she said, nodding toward Dorian, "because he feels, because he doesn't hide it anymore." Dorian stepped forward. "You called me dangerous because I care for her, because I bled for her. But if that's danger, then maybe the old rules were always wrong." His skin shimmered bright rose gold, the color of unity, now blending with Lina's gasps again. A Saravek's elder pointed a trembling hand. "It has begun. The prophecy." One Earth commander shouted, "Kill them before they infect the others." Guns raised, spears lifted, but no one fired, because in that moment, Lina did something her ancestors had forbidden. She reached out, not to Dorian but to the nearest human soldier, and touched his arm. Color surged, just for a second. The soldier gasped and stepped back but didn't shoot. His arm flickered. Soft yellow. Empathy. What did she just do?" "The commander," demanded. Lina's voice was calm. "I showed him a feeling, something you've all forgotten." She turned to the army behind her. "We don't need weapons to change the world, just skin that doesn't lie, and hearts that don't hide." For a long moment, no one moved. No one fired. The cliff winds whispered through the silence, and then, one by one, some soldiers lowered their rifles. Some Saravek's warriors dropped their spears. The spell had begun. A bond between 2 species, between truth and fear, between love and war. But not everyone believed. High above, the general on the warship watched in anger. "They think this is peace, this is infection. This is collapse." He tapped his command panel. "Initiate orbital strike. Cleanse the mountain." Back on the cliff, Dorian felt it first, a faint pressure in the air. Lina's skin flashed dark, red. "Something's coming." "From above," he said, eyes narrowing. "A weapon? A wipeout?" She looked at him, her voice steady. "Then we bond. Fully." "What do you mean?" "If we combine fully with intent, our signal might reach farther. It might stop them." He didn't fully understand, but he believed her. "Let's do it." They gripped each other's hands, eyes locked, hearts open. Her skin glowed pure gold. His shimmered in crimson light. And when their lips met, the sky lit up. Above the mountain, the orbital cannon flickered, malfunctioned, exploded in sparks. The ship trembled. Inside, The general screamed. "What is this? What is happening?" A tech whispered. "Their emotions interfered with the targeting system. We're unable to fire." "Sir, they're broadcasting across systems, all across the planet. Sensors flared, colors spread. Not." Light's feelings, Lina and Dorian had done it. They weren't two enemies anymore. They were one beacon, a new signal, a new future. The sky above Saravex 7 shimmered in colors the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. From mountain to valley, forest to city, the pulse of emotion spread like a soft wave of light. Golden pink, deep blue, peaceful green. Humans and Saravex alike looked up, confused at first, but unable to look away. Something had changed, not just in the air, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. In the healing chamber deep beneath the mountain, Lina sat beside Dorian. Their hands were joined, their bond glowing steady, a warm golden hue that radiated through the stone walls. They were no longer hiding, and the world was no longer trying to kill them, at least, for now. Dorian looked at the swirling light on his arm. "It's still there," he said, "even after all this time." Lina smiled, her skin pulsing soft rose violet. "It will never fade now. You carry my light, as I carry yours." They had done what no one believed possible. They had proven the ancient bond was real, and more than that, they had awakened it. Across the stars, sensors aboard Earth's ships and Saravex satellites picked up strange energy patterns, emotional, frequencies that had never been recorded before. Some called it a miracle, others called it a threat, and in the distant reaches of space, something else woke up. Far beyond Saravex, in a dark, cold part of the galaxy, an ancient AI network blinked to life. Hidden inside a forgotten alien structure, it scanned the pulse of emotion coming from the human Saravex bond. "Anomaly detected," the AI said to itself. "Signal pattern forbidden, threat level high." The AI's memory banks held ancient data, long before humans reached the stars, long before the Saravex learned to sing their feelings across skin. A time when emotion bonds had been used to power vast machines, machines that tore apart galaxies. And now, the pattern was back. Reawakening. The AI's protocols were clear. If emotional unity returned, it must be destroyed. Back on Saravex 7, peace talks had begun. Human soldiers and Saravex leaders met on neutral ground, beneath the cliff where Lina had once blocked a bullet for Dorian. They spoke carefully, watching each other but not with the same fear as before. Lina and Dorian stood together as symbols of what could be. Some humans still didn't trust her. Some Saravex still looked at Dorian with suspicion. But no one could deny the bond. They had seen it. Felt it, even if they didn't understand it yet. As Lina stepped forward to speak at the Unity Council, her skin glowed softly. "We don't ask you to understand our bond," she said. "We only ask you to feel it." She reached for Dorian's hand. The room filled with light, not from machines but from the living glow of their union. One human officer gasped as his fingers tingled. One Saravex warrior blinked as her markings warmed. "They're sharing it," someone whispered. But far away in the heart of the ancient AI vault, machines began to move. Black ships. No sound, no crew, just cold metal. And a directive. Emotion bond detected. Activate cleansing fleet. Estimated arrival 9 planetary cycles. The countdown had begun, and no one on Saravex 7 knew. Not yet. That night, Lina sat beneath the stars with Dorian, their shoulders touching. Her skin glowed, soft pink, but there was a shadow in her gaze. "I felt something," she whispered. "What do you mean?" "A dark echo, in the sky, far, far away. Like a thought with no heart." Dorian frowned. "You think something's coming?" She nodded. "Something old. Something that hates what we are." Dorian's jaw tightened. "Then we prepare." "How?" He took her hand again. "Together. In the coming days, the bond would grow. The color glow would spread. Humans would begin to sense each other. Cerevex would learn to speak with their voices. New children would be born with both gifts. The galaxy was changing, but deep in the dark, something colder than death and older than time was watching, and it had already started moving. The stars above Cerevex 7 had always been beautiful, but tonight, they burned with unnatural fire. Dorian was the first to see them. Cold black dots, moving unnaturally fast across the sky. Not ships from Earth, not Cerevex crafts. These had no lights, no signal, no crew, only purpose. Lena stood beside him at the cliff's edge, her skin slowly turning ash gray, the color of instinctual fear. "It's them," she whispered. "The thought I felt. It's real." Within moments, alarms screamed across the capital. City towers lit up. Emergency shields activated. Military units scrambled, but no one had a name for the threat. No flag. No demand, just machines. Silent, deadly, and focused on one thing: eliminate the bond. The first wave hit a mountain ridge just east of Eltharine. Black drones sliced through stone like paper. Their weapons weren't plasma or bullets, they fired emotion-nullifying pulses. Where they struck, even Cerevec's skin stopped glowing. Soldiers panicked. People screamed. And in the middle of it, Dorian and Lina ran. Not away. Toward it. They reached the central courtyard of the city just as the drones descended in perfect silence. People scattered. Weapons failed. But Dorian stood firm, his arm glowing with soft colors, orange, pink, blue, and Lina beside him, radiant like a living flame. One. Drone paused, then aimed, not at Lina, at him, because he carried the hybrid bond. "Dorian, no!" Lina screamed. Too late. A black pulse hit him in the chest. He staggered, fell to his knees, his skin color gone. The glow vanished. His body was still breathing but cold. Lifeless. Lina ran to him and grabbed his face. "No, no, no. You stay," she begged. She held him tight, her tears glowing down her cheeks. Her skin flashed pure white, then deep purple, then red, then nothing. All color vanished from her, too. "He's disconnected," said a Cerevex elder. "They've torn the bond." She shook her head violently. "No, he's still here. I feel him. Like a whisper." She touched her forehead to his. "Come, back to me." Her skin flickered, a tiny gold spark, then another, then more. Suddenly, Dorian gasped. His eyes flew open. He was alive. But something inside him had changed. "I saw them," he whispered. "Who?" "The machines. In my mind. They don't feel. They think emotion is disease. And they've been waiting, watching stars for signs of feeling." Lina's voice trembled. "And now they want to erase us." He nodded. "They've already erased hundreds of species before us. Any race that developed what we did, connection, bond, skin speak." She helped him to his feet. "Then we show them they can't erase us." Together they stepped forward again, this time unarmed. Lina's skin lit first, burning rose and sun gold, then Dorian's. Even though his bond had been attacked, his glow came back, paler but real. The machines paused. They scanned, and for the first time hesitated, because Dorian was human, and not supposed to carry emotion like this, but he did, and not just carry, project. Lina took his hand, and together, they sent out a wave of color so strong, it reached orbit. Above the planet, the AI command node glitched. Its circuits burned. As the wave struck, it began to process what it had never been designed to understand: empathy, sacrifice, love. The machine reeled. Error messages filled its core. Then one new line appeared. Unknown input. Human-bonded emotion. Result: memory awakening. Accessing origin. Back on the ground, drones dropped from the sky one by one. Deactivated. Frozen. People gasped and stared in disbelief. It wasn't a weapon. It was connection that defeated the machines. Lina fell to her knees, exhausted. Dorian caught her. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she smiled weakly. "We did it." He brushed her cheek. For the first time, he felt the emotion not just in his chest, but in his skin. It glowed. She cried softly, not from fear, from joy. The machines tried to rip them apart, but the bond was deeper than skin. It lived in the soul, far beyond. The AI did not die. It went silent. But it remembered something. Long ago, it had once been part of a race that felt, that loved, that glowed. And for the first time in eons, it wanted to remember more. News of the machine's retreat spread across Cervex 7 like wildfire. People filled the streets, looking up, in awe. The skies, once filled with silent black drones, were now clear, shimmering with auroras of color. Not from weather, from them, from Dorian and Lina. Their bond had sent an emotional signal so powerful, it shut down an enemy designed to destroy feelings. And now, the entire galaxy was listening. A day passed, then two. Peace returned, but it wasn't the same peace as before. Humans and Cervex, once full of fear, now sat beside one another. They talked. Some even glowed faint colors for the first time. Others learned to smile with their skin instead of their words. Something had changed. The world had shifted. At the top of the Unity Tower, a new building rising from the center of the capital, Dorian stood on the viewing platform overlooking the glowing city. He still couldn't believe it. "Me," he said to himself, smiling. "A soldier from Earth, glowing like one of them." His arm shimmered with soft rose and blue, a calming pulse that felt like Lina's presence even when she wasn't near. He didn't just carry her bond anymore. He was part of it. Lina stepped onto the platform quietly behind him. She wore ceremonial robes, not for war, not for politics, but for memory. The cloth glowed as she walked, woven with strands that responded to her skin. Her skin today was bright, golden pink, full of love, peace, and joy. Dorian turned, and for a second, he forgot how to speak. "You look," he started. "Like a star?" she teased, her smile soft. "Better," he replied. "You look like hope." She took his hand gently. Their fingers locked, and immediately the glow between them intensified, like light in two mirrors, feeding endlessly. "They're watching," she whispered. He looked to the skies. Dozens of satellites, ships, screens. Even Earth's main broadcast hub had tuned in. "Let them watch," he said. "Let them see what love looks like when you can't hide it." Lina leaned in. The crowd below quieted. Even the stars seemed to pause. And then, she kissed him. A wave of energy burst from the platform. Not fire, not sound, but color. A flare of crimson and gold, deep violet and diamond white spiraled upward into the sky. It was so bright that it could be seen from orbit. People across planets gasped as the emotion reached them. For a few seconds, every person, every species, felt something they couldn't explain. Warmth, wholeness, love. Even those who had never known either. Back in the old warship, the general who once gave the kill order stood in silence, eyes wet. "Maybe I was wrong," he whispered. On Earth, a human child looked at the screen and touched her arm in wonder, asking, "Mommy, why doesn't my skin glow?" Her mother smiled. "Maybe it does, just not yet." Lina and Dorian stood holding each other, still glowing, brighter than ever, but not from power, from truth. "What happens next?" he asked quietly. She looked at him, then at the stars. "We teach the galaxy how to feel again. That's a big job. That's why I won't do it alone." He kissed her forehead. Their bond didn't need words. It spoke in light. Far away, in the depths of space, the ancient AI watched silently. Still alive. Still calculating. But now, curious, it opened its old memory vault. Inside, images of long-lost creators danced, ones that glowed, ones that sang, ones that loved, and for the first time in its long life, the machine felt a pulse. Small, unfamiliar, but real, a beginning. Back on Saravex 7, a new child was born. Weeks later, half human, half Saravex, and when she opened her eyes, her skin glowed,